I saw The Batman, and it was pretty gosh darn good. This is a separate movie from the DCEU. It does not take place in the same universe as Justice League or Suicide Squad, nor does this take place in the same universe as Joker. This is its own standalone thing, and thank God for that. Honestly, it's about time we get more standalone stories that don't feel like they're just set up for a billion more movies. But this time, we have Batt Reeves directing it and Robert Pattinson playing Batman. Of course, I was excited to see Robert Pattinson take on the character of Batman because I love him. Going from a vampire to a bat is just good character development, right? But also, having Batt Reeves direct is interesting because he's never been one of my favorite filmmakers, but I do really like his work. He made both Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes, which despite their flaws, I really love both of those movies. He also directed Cloverfield, which was meh, and Let Me In, which was dog shit. So I figured that this could go either way, and I don't know for sure yet. I do want to watch it again to get a second opinion, but I think The Batman is my third favorite movie of his filmography. I don't know, it might not be. I haven't watched those monkey movies in a while, but this was a superhero movie with something to say, and I love that. It definitely nailed the tone of Batman better than any Batman movie has before it, even The Dark Knight. The tone and atmosphere of this movie felt like a blend of Nolan's universe with Tim Burton's universe, but it never felt like it was trying to copy either one of those. It was its own thing, and I think it nailed what it was going for. And what it's going for is a dark, creepy, slow burn detective movie, and it's exactly that. I felt the same way watching this as I did watching Seven for the first time. And just because there isn't much action doesn't mean that it isn't there. When Batman is kicking ass in the movie, he's kicking serious ass. It's Batman, so you know he doesn't want to kill anyone, but fuck me, he sure does like to beat motherfuckers until they're centimeters from death. So let's talk about the character of Batman for a little bit. I love what they did with him in this movie. Instead of having Bruce Wayne be a billionaire playboy, he's this recluse. Nobody sees him because he's never out in the daytime. And when he does see daylight, it like literally hurts his eyes. This is where most people complain about the movie because realistically, Batman is supposed to have three personas. Bruce Wayne as he is in the eye of the public, Detective Bruce Wayne how he really is, and then Batman himself. This movie kind of does away with that, and he's just Batman the entire movie. There is no Bruce Wayne persona. Not yet, anyway. And this is why I like this choice. This version of the character shows that Batman is his true identity, and Bruce Wayne is the alter ego. When he goes out as Bruce Wayne, that's him putting on the mask and costume. It leaves plenty of great opportunities for them to flesh out Bruce Wayne's character more in future movies. I absolutely love this decision. Also, I love Pattinson's performance. This is mega emo Bruce Wayne. He probably listens to black metal when he's falling asleep. Like, you feel the depression and the anger that this character feels. There are multiple fight scenes where people are just unloading their weapons on him, and he walks towards them like he doesn't give a shit that he's being shot. He doesn't duck, he doesn't jump out of the way. This Batman does not give a fuck if he lives or dies, and that is so hardcore. I love the fight scene that's entirely in the dark, and it's only lit when the bad guys are firing their guns. My only issue with the character of Batman in this movie is that I do not buy, even for a minute, that these people can't piece together that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Just the scene where he and Falcone are talking outside alone, the whole time inside my head I was screaming, "You fucking idiot, that is obviously Batman standing in front of you, just look at him." It was almost as stupid as when in the original Spider-Man, Peter says the exact same line as Peter and as Spider-Man to Mary Jane, like 5 minutes apart from each other.
I was in the neighborhood.
I think I have a superhero stalker.
I was in the neighborhood.
How does she not know your voice, Spider-Man? You're fucking Bully Maguire. Who couldn't recognize Bully Maguire's voice? It sounds like nails on a chalkboard. So yeah, a few mild flaws, but for the most part, Battinson has my dick hard as a rock. As for the other characters, they pretty much all blew me away. Paul Dano as the Riddler was even better than I imagined. He was creepy as hell, but at the same time pathetic and dorky, which is exactly what that character is. Colin Farrell as the Penguin is arguably one of the greatest portrayals of a comic book villain ever. He's not in the movie much, but his inclusion made a huge impact for me. He was probably my favorite character of the whole thing. If not him, then Catwoman. Zoe Kravitz absolutely blew me away. She gave such a good performance. She was kind of the heart and soul of the storyline, and that totally worked for me. She felt a lot more necessary to the plot here than in The Dark Knight Rises, and I appreciate that. Also, I can't go without mentioning John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. I didn't know this character was even in the movie, but if I did, I'd probably have been super worried about John Turturro playing the character. Now that I've seen it, I can honestly say he was made for that role. I would go as far as saying he gave a better performance as Falcone than Tom Wilkinson did in Batman Begins, who I also love. As far as the other characters go, they were alright. Andy Serkis playing Alfred really worked for me. I just don't feel like we got enough of him. He's barely in it. And I get it, we don't come to a Batman movie to see Alfred, but Michael Caine was so amazing and such an important part of the Dark Knight trilogy that it feels wrong not having Alfred be one of the main characters of a Batman movie. Also, Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon was pretty decent. He didn't blow me away like he seems to be doing everyone else. I don't think he even holds a candle to Gary Oldman, but still, I liked the inclusion of his character in this movie. He felt kind of like the Morgan Freeman to Batman's Brad Pitt. He was the more collected, wise detective, and Batman was clearly the reckless, unhinged detective. But their chemistry was very good, and they undeniably worked really well together. There's only one character in the movie that I actively dislike, and luckily, he's only in one scene of the movie. If you've seen it, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. Yes, the character that shows up for like the one scene at the very end of the movie. I felt like his inclusion was super forced, and the movie would have actually been better if his scene wasn't included at all. It did nothing for me except, oh look, here's a villain that'll be in a future movie. I didn't give a fuck, and the deleted scene did nothing for me either. They should have deleted both scenes if you ask me. Other than that, I don't have much negative to say about the movie. The pacing wasn't great. There were a couple moments where I felt like it was dragging, but it never lingered and it always picked back up pretty quickly. It's a 3-hour long movie, but it felt more like 2 to 2.5 hours. I was always engaged and I wouldn't mind sitting through it again, but I would sooner rewatch the Planet of the Apes movies. Those movies just have a more lasting impact. The Batman is just a decent comic book movie. However, Matt Reeves did do an amazing job at nailing the tone and feel of Batman. This felt more like a horror movie than any DC movie I've seen in a really long time. There were moments that were legitimately scary. It was the most rated R feeling PG-13 movie I think I've ever seen. There's like gore and disfigurements and just brutal shit. I needed that in a Batman movie, and I finally got it, and I'm happy. I'm gonna give The Batman a 7 out of 10.